Alright drummers, it's Rob Litton here from drumstheword.com. Hope you're doing well. This song has been requested many times over the years from me, so I'm very happy to finally get around to doing the song Smooth Criminal by Alien Ant Farm, drummed by Michael Cosgrove. And what I've got for you today are 11 of my favourite and the most important crucial beats and fills from the song. I've got it all transcribed for you. You can download all 3 pages of the PDF from my website. You'll find a link beneath this video. We can download it for free. So have all this printed out in front of you as we go through this together. So we'll start with the first part of the song. The tempo is 127. Just to start off with, just what I mentioned right at the beginning, this is a bit of a work of art when it comes to drumming. There's so much going on, and I was lucky enough to find an isolated drum track for this song, so I could hear all those amazing ghost notes and stuff that Michael throws in throughout this song. You won't believe how much playing he's actually putting in. Well, maybe you do already, but if you actually hear the drumming clearly, then it's even more. There's even more going on than perhaps you first thought. So this first example doesn't really have any ghost notes like I just mentioned, but we've got some cool right hand technique going on. So the song starts with the whole band coming in on the and a beat 4 with that stab at the beginning. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and Michael plays there the hi-hat and snare drum, open hi-hat, and closes on beat 1 of the next bar. And then we go into a bass drum and crash cymbal on the and of 1. That's a repeating motif throughout this song, is we get this upbeat and, we skip over 1, and then we accent somewhere around the and of beat 1. And Michael's using loads and loads of different splash cymbals, China cymbals throughout this song. I'm just going to be using crash cymbals. If you want to use splash cymbals, if you've got a splash cymbal, for example, that's great. But I'm just going to be using crash cymbals for this. So we come in with that stab, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and we're then into a crash or splash on the and of beat 1. We then go into the groove with the snare drum on beat 2, 2E, bass drum there, surprise bass drum on the E of 2, 2E, and then Michael does this repeating idea with the right hand, and 3, which also occurs on and 1 as well. So we get and 3 and, the hi-hat leads into the bass drums there, and 3 and 4 and So those first 2 bars again, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2E and 3 and 4 and Then we go into that third bar there where we just get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Again, accenting the and a beat 4, 4 and. The hi-hat's then going to close on the next bar, beat 1, where we get a ghost note, 1E and, 1E and. A little snare drum ghost note there, a little tap on the snare drum, 1E and. But we get this open hi-hat again on the and of beat 1. So following the bar preceding it, we've got an open hi-hat on the and of 4, and then we've also got a hi-hat, open hi-hat on the and of beat 1, 1E and 2. But then from that point onwards, the drum beat's pretty much the same as we just had. So we get 2E and 3 and 4 and into the last bar, and 1 and 2 and 3. And then Michael throws in lots of different ideas through the verses, but the first one to occur here, he plays 3 and 4 and. You could play and 4, but the way he's played it on the recording, there's 2 very solid hi-hat notes there, suggests to me that he played it double-handed. So we get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 4 and. You'll play it and 4 and. But also you'll see throughout the song there's a lot of left-hand crash cymbals going on. You just have to use the left hand a lot more than you usually would just to get out of some of these drum fills. And here's our first example. So slowly before I play up to speed, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. I missed the whole open hi-hat there. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and let me just cut straight to the chase. Let me just play it up to speed for you properly without a microphone on so you can hear just the drums. Here we go. So this next drum fill occurs at 29 seconds, the first one that sort of popped out for me. It's a great example of being able to find the isolated drum track and hearing all those little subtle notes he's playing, because he's playing some drags in there which you probably wouldn't hear if you just listened to the recorded version as a whole. So what he's playing here Starts off with one open hi-hat there from the previous bar, one E and into, I've written the high tom, but I'm going to use this tom, it doesn't really matter, any tom you like. One E and, one E and the bass drum comes down with the and of beat 1 there as well as that tom, and giving a bit more power. Then he drags on the of beat 1, so we get and 2 E, drags into 2 snare drum accents, 2 E, straight back up to the hi-hat, 2 E and a little ghost note at the end there, and back to the same tom he used from the beginning of the drum fill for beat 3 with the bass drum again. 3 drags into the and of 3, 3 E and 4 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Again, using or landing a crash cymbal on the and of beat 4 there. So we get 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. I think I played one too many drags there. Let me do that again for you. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E. And that was rubbish. Let me do that again. I'm going to keep all these mistakes in, by the way, because this is a tricky song to play, and even taking them off the page, little parts off the page individually, they're still quite difficult to play. But once you get it, you get it. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and. I did it again, didn't I? 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. That was better. One more time. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. And now let's hear it played a couple of times up to speed properly. So then the band go into a section at 31 seconds where Michael is basically playing the upbeat notes on the open hi-hat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and creating even more independence going on. There are some ghost notes being thrown in here as well. So this 2-bar drum beat really shows you the 2-bar pattern he's playing here. It starts with a closed hi-hat foot, because when you loop it around it sort of makes sense, and also that's coming from the previous section. We get 1 E and he uses the ride cymbal, interestingly enough. You can hear it's the ride cymbal. It doesn't sound like a crash. 1 E and, again using that and of beat 1, 1 E and then from beat 2 he plays 2 E and 2 E and So we got that first open hi-hat on the and of beat 2 there. 2 E and beat 3, 3 and then 4 and another little ghost note at the end there. 4 and into the second bar, 1 and 2 and then 3 and 4 and he definitely uses splashes for that section, I believe. So you could use just two different crash cymbals as I did there. So slowly the 2 bars, 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4 1 and 2 3 and 4 and let's hear it up to speed properly. So then we get to the chorus. The first time it occurs at 46 seconds. And this is probably the trickiest part of the song to play, trickiest drum beat in the song to play. He's up on the ride cymbal, and he's naturally going to accent the bell on the downbeats. You see what I mean in a second. We're sort of getting this 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2. That kind of pattern going throughout, although he breaks it up as you'll see. So don't worry if you miss the bell on the quarter note occasionally. It takes Mike about one beat to get into it after the beginning of each bar. So if you listen to the recording, you'll hear that. So don't worry if you're missing the bell quite a lot, but just aim for that sort of bell on the downbeats as much as you can, really, and especially at the end of the bar, end of the 2-bar phrase, as we'll see. So it starts off with 1 E and 1 E and then 2 E. We've got this idea from the verse drum beats. With the bass drums falling on the and of 1 and then the E of 2, 2 E and 3 and 4 and so that pattern I just showed you there going on, but a very basic bass drum and snare drum pattern from beat 3 onwards. Then the second bar continues with it, the first half being rather simple, if you like, apart from this bit, 1 and 2 and 3, but then from beat 3 a really cool thing happens. He plays around with the rest of the band, the bass guitar. What he plays here is he plays 3 E and He fills in the gap between the 3 and the with 2 ghost note snare drums. 3 E and 3 E and 3 E and 4, 4 accented, 4 and straight afterwards he's playing a little drag note and which is a bit weird in its own, but it links into the next bar and 1 E. So we get for the next bar, second line, 1 E and then Mike does this pattern after each of those at the end of each 2 bar where he plays and 2 E and. Very similar idea to Neil Peart in a few of his songs, Rush's songs. It's used all the time, but a lot of drummers, 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 3 and 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4 and stuff like that. But he does it here at the beginning. We get 1 E and the bass drum comes down with those first 2 bells. It doesn't have to be the bell. In fact, I don't think Mike does play the bell. I thought he plays this and 2 E and the and I believe is the bell. So we get 1 E and 2 E and 2 E and 3. A ghost note there falling on the of 2, 3, and then it goes on and 4 and 4 and 1. And that second bar, fourth bar of the second line is exactly the same as the bar above. So you can see then how it loops. We get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you can hardly hear the drag on its own. So it's all about looping it together that makes it tricky. So let's try and play all 4 bars. 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and So it's quite a mouthful to count it out loud at the same time. So now let's hear it played, hopefully a little bit better than that, up to speed. So on to page 2 of the notation, and this next drum fill occurs at 59 seconds. He's been on the right cymbal previously, so it starts with 1 E and we get another little drag. He likes to throw his drags in this song. 1 E and into the snare drum on the and of 1 there, 1 E and. Then he plays 2 E, highest tom, 2 E and 3, down to the next lowest tom. 2 E, the and is ghosted, and 3, and actually we get the bass drum coming down with that second tom on beat 3, and then a very similar idea to a previous drum fill. In fact, a lot of these drum fills are very similar to each other. It's just how he orchestrates it. We get 2 E and then down to your lowest tom, 4 E and. Again, always ending on that and of 4. So slowly, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. And let's hear it up to speed a couple of times. So this next section occurs at 1 minute 13, and it's the part that goes with the da da ba ba dun dun da da ba ba dun 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 dun. So it's that bit we're talking about here. So I thought I'd notate that out for you because it's kind of cool. It's something I wouldn't have come up with. So what he plays here is 1 and 2 and the hi-hat closes there on the and of 2. 1 and 2 and then uses a China cymbal for this bit. But his right hand is on, or left hand is on the lowest floor tom. I use these 2 parts here. But if you've got a China cymbal, great, it adds a bit more effect to this bit. He plays 3 and, then straight back to the open hi-hat on beat 4, 4 and, so 3 and 4 and. Then into the second bar, 1 and, I believe that's a splash, 1 and 2 and, from my memory, 1 and 2 and, again that 2 and going on, and then he ends it with 3 and 4 and 3 and flam into a crash cymbal on that and a 4. So slowly those 2 bars, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Very weird, but it goes beautifully with the music. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The hands are all over the place. But let's hear that now up to speed. Okay, this next fill occurs at 1 minute 29, probably the coolest drum fill in the song. Certainly the one that made my ears prick up when I first heard this song. And we've got a lick called the Herta being played. And I've talked about this in many of my other videos. Many other drummers have mentioned it before. It's called different things for different people. Some people have called it the Cobham rudiment. I call it the Herta. It's simply a 4-note pattern, but the first 2 notes are played twice as fast as the second 2 notes. It's just all right, left, right, left. Lots of fun to play, takes a little bit of practice, and you have to be able to play those notes in the correct subdivision. If you play them all as 4 evenly spaced notes, it's not the same as... So you have to get that spacing correct to make it sound correct, and also to make it fit in the bar properly. So it's 32nd notes and 2 16th notes in the song. He plays on his highest tom. You could use the second highest tom, it doesn't matter. Well, you need to be using your rack toms because your CY in a second, your left hand needs to come down to the snare drum. It just makes more sense if you're sort of up here. So the highest tom, 1 E and then again, actually it's counted 1 E and 1 E and then again 2 E, which is counting through 16th notes here. Then he moves down to the next tom for the and of beat 2, and he starts it with one right hand. You can play it with your left hand, but your left hand just played a note, so it makes sense for your right hand to play this next note. And a little gap there, a 16th note gap, because then he starts the Herta again. So we get and 3 E, and then and it's hard to count 32nd notes because you're playing 2 notes to 1 16th note counted. That's my excuse. And then it ends with 4 E and. An example there of having to come out with your left hand on the crash cymbal because of the sticking you used. 4 E and. Lowest tom there just for 1 note. So, slowly, while counting, 1 E and, that's it, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. So a little bit faster. And let's hear it up to speed a couple of times. Okay, this next groove occurs at 2 minute 24. Really good fun. It's just a 1-bar pattern, but he plays around with the orchestration. There's a section that occurs a few seconds after this bar I'm going to show you, where he starts to include the tom as part of the drum groove. And just because the way my kit's set up, playing double-handed means that I actually can't play those licks on the kit that I've got with my setup. You find you'll be able to because your right hand is free to come over to the tom, but mine isn't because I have to go over like that. So forgive me that I haven't taken you through that section that occurs just after this drum beat I'm going to show you, where he starts to include the toms within the drum beat. It's really cool, but nothing that complicated. He's sort of playing 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4, stuff like that, or 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and 4. But he's coming with his right hand and the left hand's maintaining on the hi-hat. But anyway, this is the basic drum beat. And this is something you could play if you really can't get those tom parts in. You could just play this drum beat all the way up to the drum fill. He's playing 1 E and and I think the first time he plays this bar at 224, there's a splash cymbal on the and of 1, but I haven't written it because he then doesn't repeat it the second, third, and fourth times. 1 E and 2 E, 2 E and so again, the bass drum's doing that 1 and 2 E thing, 2 E and then a cool little open hi-hat on beat 3, 3 E, 3 E and 4, 3 E and 4 E, and then the coolest part is 4 4 E and going beautifully with the bass guitar. 4 E and 2 bass drum notes on the and the of beat 4 before it then loops. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 E and 3 4 and that's a lot of fun to play. I love that groove a lot. So let's hear that up to speed now. So we weren't finished with the Herta, or the cobham rudiment. It comes back again at 2:52 in a really cool new way, a different way to orchestrate it, showing you how you can take that one lick and just play it in a different position around the kit and make it sound completely different. So we're still playing the right, left idea, but it's orchestrated this way. 1 E and on the tom. Use the crash cymbal. If you haven't got a crash cymbal over here and your crash cymbal's in front of you instead, you could use the tom in front of you. But basically use a tom that's nearest the crash cymbal because you have to be quick with this. 1 E and that snare drum, that last left hand note is on the snare drum. 1 E and But notice we've got the bass drum coming down at the beginning of each grouping with the crash cymbal. He plays that lick 3 times. 1 E and 2 E and 3, and then from the E of beat 3 he plays E and 4 E and E and 4 E and you do want to probably use that as a left hand. You could play 4 E and E and 4 E and if you wanted to, but I'm pretty sure Mike would have played it with his left hand as a double left. E and 4 E and feel free to use different crash cymbals as Mike does during this drum fill. So slowly, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and a couple of times up to speed. So then on to the last page, and the last drum fill I've got for you today. It occurs at 3:08, it's going to require some right to left crash cymbal action here. I've written it for this tom because that's the tom that's nearest my 2 crash cymbals, but you could use your floor toms if you wanted to. But you need to be, whatever toms you choose, need to be nearish the crash cymbals. So what he plays, and like I said, I'm going to start on this tom here. 1 E and 2 E. So it's just right, left, right, left, right, left with the bass drum with the crash cymbals. You could go, if you've only got 1 crash cymbal, that'll work as well. Then he then moves down to the next lowest tom. I've got the floor tom. So we get and 3 E and so exactly the same as up here, but just here instead. Two of those groupings of 3. And then it ends with 4 E and 4 E and. So slowly, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and now a couple of times up to speed. So finally at 3:17 we've got the outro groove that Mike's playing, and it's very similar to our intro groove. It starts with a hi-hat, stepped hi-hat foot, 1 E and into the ride cymbal again. So the same idea as we had previously. 1 E and, use it like a crash cymbal. 1 E and then 2 E and 3 and 4 and I didn't mention earlier on with this 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 that that's a lot of work to do with your right hand. So if you really can't do that, then you could play something like and play it as a double-handed thing instead. You just work out your own sticking. So you could do it that way, but notice that Mike doesn't. And when we go to the ride cymbal for the chorus, it's not being played, it's being played with one hand. So quite some technique going on. So again, that bar, 1 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4 and the next bar's got this cool little drum fill. 1 and 2. Notice he doesn't play 1 and 2, just 1 and 2 and little drag there, goes to drag on the of 2, into beat 3, 3 E, and then he moves to, I've written it for this tom, but I'm going to use this tom instead. It really doesn't matter, it's just the tom nearest your snare drum. He plays a triplet note, grouping of notes, starting on the and beat 3, and to 4, and to 4, and to 4. That's how I count them. And to 4. Into that crash cymbal on the and beat 4. So that second bar slowly. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 4 and. Bit of a mouthful to count it. By the way, the count is useful because it helps you take it off the page. Once you've got it in your head, you don't really have to be counting it. I'm not counting when I'm playing this song up to speed. I'm feeling it because I've taken it off the page. The counting helped me, and then I'm just feeling it. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Notice the bass drum's on 3 and. 3 E and 4 and. The next line, we get a ghost note 1 E and the open hi-hat 1 E and 2 E. It closes on 2. 2 E and 3 and 4 and 1 E and 2 E and 3 and. Then the very last bar of the song, we get 1 and 2 and 3. And it comes up. I'm going to use this tom. And 3, bass drum on beat 3, and 3 ands, and the lowest tom and snare drum and. So the song ends on the and beat 3, which is interesting. So 1 and 2 and 3 and. It catches you off guard in a cool way. So those 4 bars, 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 and 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and. And now let's hear it up to speed. Wow, so there you go, that's the whole song. Definitely an advanced song this, an advanced lesson. You'll be forgiven if you find that you can only do just a few of these. This is a tricky song to play, but a lot of fun. Loads of cool stuff you can take out of it, that Herta lick for example, the right hand technique, the bass drum stuff. Loads of cool ideas that on their own are really, really useful for your drumming, but if you want to have a real challenge and try to play along to this whole song in one go, it's quite an ordeal. So don't forget to download the free PDF that came with this lesson, all 3 pages. Again, you'll find the link beneath this video. If you've got any questions, feel free to email me, rob@drumstheword.com. Go over to my Facebook page, that's where this song was suggested. And I regularly do a post where I ask my followers for their song suggestions. Other people then get to vote on them, and the songs with the most votes get chosen for future lessons, like this one was today. And you might want to go over to my website to download the PDF, of course. But while you're over there, you might want to check out or consider becoming an online member. And what I currently offer for $97, it's a full year's access to every single full video song lesson I've ever recorded and transcribed. And that's coming up to 450 famous and popular songs now. Unlike this lesson where I just taught you my favourite parts, the main parts, in my full song lessons I teach you the song from start to finish. Every single bar is included. You get the fully transcribed PDF drum chart. And like I said, I've got almost 450 famous and popular songs on the site already. As a thank you for signing up, I'll give you access to even more. I'll give you hundreds of little videos teaching you many, many famous drum beats, fills, and even drum solos. I'll give you 3 ebooks I've written over the years containing hundreds more famous drum beats, fills, and solos. And then over the year of your subscription, you also gain instant online access to all the new material that I upload for my members. So you've got lots of cool stuff to look forward to over the year of your subscription. But if you've got any questions about any of that, feel free to email me, rob@drumstheword.com. Until our next drum lesson together, toodle pip and happy drumming to you.